Free speech signing in. Let's have a look at some pride training. Yeah, okay. So while South Australian Parliament has now become gender neutral in their pronunciation of pronouns and having some workplace reforms, like with gender neutral titles and pronouns, while that is going on, we're seeing transgender lunacy with people stripped down in front of children in disturbing TV show. Like, I'm not even sure I should be looking that up on like the internet because that could cause some issues. Well, I would have thought. We have this here, pronouns 101. Okay, what are pronouns? Different types of pronouns. Example of gendered pronouns, gender neutral pronouns and neo-pronouns. Okay, and it breaks it down what, he, her, hers. Subject, object, possessive, and pronunciation. Right, and then there's... I don't even know if this is a troll web page at this point in time. But this isn't actually a thing. So workplaces, maybe they're going to be focusing on, training transgenderism to children. And Parliament will make sure they are addressing correct pronouns. Meanwhile, so the reason I find this so interesting and fascinating, because, while this sort of announcement is taking place, this is politics, and here in South Australia, this is actually what's happening, and this is not a joke. And I don't remember voting for this sort of stuff, but hey, pronouns, correct pronunciation of pronouns and gender neutral titles is the way to go, right? We have this here, basically in China. So while we are training people to worry about pronouns and pronunciation of gender neutral identities, China has been, for the most, training an army of geologists. Now, why is that interesting? Is it some global takeover by geologists? No, it's just fact, and I'm pointing this out because why? Because it's frustrating to see how countries like Australia and the Parliament and the whatever this is here with TV shows stripping down in front of young children, which is disturbing. While that is going on, people in China have been developing, their universities and training them to literally understand better how the planet works. And why is that? Well, maybe they want to locate better types of minerals, rare earths, oil, gas, energy, things like that, which help produce, keep the economy ticking over. Now, why is this important? If you go through, have a read of this. I may put a link in description below, but basically there is a very strong ratio of students who study geology from China versus students who study geology in the rest of the world. And funnily enough, they are in every corner of the planet, and they're very successful, and they understand what it is they're doing, and they are able to, over a generation, literally influence the planet. And what is their ultimate objective? Let's have a look. We can scroll down. Let's have a look. If you could imagine, where is it here? Basically, learning where all the minerals are of the planet, and in a way, being beneficial to China. Now, I'm going to find the exact wording because it's pretty interesting to read, Can I find it? If not, I'll move on. But while we look for this exact wording, just think about this. If you can affect the future generation, how would you want to affect it? So apparently here we're learning about gender neutral pronouns, while some countries might be training, geologists. And so in the future, one country is going to have a lot of people who understand about questionable information such as gender norms, and the other countries are going to have a vast depth of knowledge in geology. Now, which one is more important for a successful nation? I wonder. Now, I would say that having lots of scientists who can find and produce energy might be more beneficial to your nation, instead of people who understand words that appear to be cropping up, as the certain criteria. There's a alphabet almost now of those letters, and it's just I've lost track of what is actually going on. And I thought it was just me being a bit skeptical of it all and thinking, well, maybe this is not going to proliferate. And now what I've seen over the many years is it just keeps being further and further ingrained. And if you do not toe the line, and you get treated like some sort of anti-vaxxer, and they got treated really badly, so you don't want to be treated like that. You don't want to be treated like that. Anyway, China, massive educational effort to train geologists and related scientific personnel for future indicates a national desire to adopt the best scientific knowledge of the West, because China intends, in its own unique way, to be among the prevailing civilizations of the future. So, if you want to be a successful civilization, you might want to know about the planet, right? And you might care less about borderline made-up genders that may or may not exist because people recognize as a car. I don't know. Sounds a bit, doesn't sound scientific to me. That is literally what's taking place. That's literally what's taking place, people. And now here in small old South Australia, we've decided to follow. What are we following anymore? This is really frustrating. I'm voting for these people to vote about workplace reforms, about gender neutral titles and pronouns. I seriously think at this point in time, a politician could come in and just talk common sense logic, and they would be far more successful than whatever else is currently taking place. I saw a thing recently, they're going to raise taxes to be the highest ever. It's like, are you serious? You're serious? You're going to that's a good thing? I know how I'm voting next, election. Is it going to make a difference? Who knows? So in the meantime, instead of talking about, gender neutral titles and pronouns, there could be other things they could cover. Maybe they could cover a ramping issue whereby people aren't able to get into a hospital because they're being ramped in an ambulance in front of the hospital. Maybe you might want to fix that, just maybe. It has some articles here. I just did a quick search, Maybe people might be concerned about homeless people, ABS, Australian Bureau of Statistics, census data shows, the problem is getting worse. And women seem to be a majority of the new homeless. But yet, also Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people severely overrepresented. But who cares about that, right? As long as you correctly call them by their gender neutral pronouns. Interesting. What about, Aussie school results, masking struggling students? I'd like to see how Australia's performing, and in the even though there is the whole question of whether the education system is the most efficient or not, the way it's run, because it teaches you to sort of parrot the narrative, parrot the answer, as opposed to maybe critical thinking and applying logic. That is a whole nother topic. But in relation to how it's performing in the measuring stick versus the world, I'm pretty sure Australia is not at the top. So how about we, focus on, just for an example, we could focus on how to teach the young kids how to keep women and men from being homeless, how to get people into hospitals as they need it, But instead, we're focusing on gender neutral titles and pronouns, while China, as one example, is teaching many of their students, which is the future, the youth, to be geologists, successful geologists, which are everywhere. Okay, so the only thing good I can think of, yahoofinance.com. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ooh, currently number 8. What have we got? Oh, what's this one? We got hex.com. We got hex USDC, which is 7.92 cents currently. Thank God for hacks. Seriously, thank God for hacks. Imagine if somehow people were taught in schools about crypto. Imagine if the homeless people could stop becoming homeless. Imagine if the people in ambulances could afford, to get into better situations and weren't so unhealthy. I don't know. Maybe you might want to teach some people some of this stuff instead of teaching them gender neutral titles and pronouns. All right.